Good evening. I'd like to call a meeting to order. This is the January 10th, 2018 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. Our order of business, I'd first of all like to have a motion to take one item out of order since our first order is not here, our first order of business. We have a motion to take one item out of order. Anybody? Okay, and seconded?
Seconded.
Okay. We have visitors here from a proposed art installation at Utopia Park, which makes me think of spring. So I'd like to hear what they have to say, and this is just a presentation, not a request for any action by the board.
Hi, my name is Toby Marks. I'm the Special Events Coordinator with the Office of Cultural Affairs and Special Events for the City of Lowell. I'm here to fill in for Henry Marchand, who was out sick today. We had a PowerPoint presentation, but we have some technical difficulties. But you have copies of the brief version. In short, the Hydro project has been in the works for now about 7 years. I think it started in 2011. Planning was done, design was done, engineering and original was done.
Could we first say where this project is going to be located?
I'll come to that. So it was designed for Utopian Park, which was formerly Point Park, which is in the Hamilton Canal District, right across from the swamp locks, where the different canals come together. So to give you a better idea for who doesn't know that, it's where you have 110 Canal Street, the building, you have the big parking lot behind that, and right at the end of the parking lot, right on that corner where all the canals meet, that's Utopian Park, that has been redesigned a couple years ago, was rededicated to be Utopian Park, and this installation is supposed to go right on there. If you look at your paperwork, the second page where it says the top image, you're looking from the pedestrian bridge that the National Park restored a couple years ago, that comes from the swamp lock, goes all the way around, and then you can look towards 110 Canal Street on your left side, and you see the smokestack. That building, that mill is mill number 5, Jackson Street, Appleton Mills are to the left. And I think the piece was at that time designed and chosen to be really dramatic, a very dramatic installation that mimics from the design the flow of the waterfalls and the water and all the turbines, and at that position for being the entry point to the city, with Thorndike being the main entry point into the city to greet people that way.
Okay, it looks like a very ambitious project and certainly will bring that area alive. I would say it does require a request for determination from this board at some point when you're ready to do that.
Okay.
And I don't know, is this something that's going to be set off from the public, or is this sort of an interactive type of sculpture?
It's not interactive anymore. If you have more questions regarding the project itself and the sculpture, I would invite Barbara Gilbert up to the microphone to talk about it more, because she would know much more because she was involved in the planning process.
Yeah, well, it certainly makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think in the beginning when it started, it was designed to be interactive, to have maybe, as if I'm saying something wrong, hit me from the back, but to have a play structure inside of it, but because the project had to be scaled down, funding-wise, cost-wise, I think now it doesn't include that anymore. Is that correct?
Good evening.
It's a freestanding sculpture, and the lower
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
The lower portions of the sculpture are meant to be sat on, but it's not meant to be climbed on the way it was in the original design. We've reduced the scope somewhat. So it's going to be in an open setting that children, family, visitors can all access the sculpture, move around it, touch it, play with it, but not climb it. Mm-hmm. It'll be set in a lawn, a very simple lawn. It's currently a grassy pad right now, and it has some perimeter shrubbery which will stay in place. The site work consists of surveying and placing some concrete footings that have pins in them. The sculpture comes in pieces, and riggers will place it onto the pins on the site. It's a very quick installation process.
Looks like less maintenance too than shrubbery and trees and things.
Right. It's partially for budget and partially just because it's meant to be an object set in the landscape. It's a very simple site treatment. No paving, no concrete benches, anything of that sort.
And it's metal, I presume?
It's stainless steel, yes.
Okay, well, I think that's a very interesting looking project, and I'd be interested to hear more about your installation when you get to that point.
We have a site drawing that shows how the soils will be temporarily held on the site and where the stormwater controls will be. Unfortunately, I guess the PowerPoint didn't work out, but we have a copy of that if that's useful for you to see now.
Okay.
And you can see on the third page where that it's positioned on that lower corner of the park, so it leaves a substantial amount of the park still for the public to enjoy, or for other quality of life things like events or cultural events to be used for that, which is certainly this park has been over the last couple of years.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. Everything down there is square, and now we finally got something that doesn't have sharp edges.
Yeah, it was very much meant to look like the flow of water, going through the locks mechanism. I think it's going to be very poetic. A nice combination of playful and pretty from a distance. And it's designed so it can be seen from the nearby roads, so that it'll have kind of a little bit of an urban presence up on the hill.
And are you the artist?
No.
No. Can we say who is?
I'm a cool board member, and this is a cool project, so we've been shepherding it through the process. Nancy Selvage is the artist. She's been involved from the very beginning, and she is taking it through complete installation.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Anybody? Okay, I think we'll be seeing you back here again probably. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you turn on?
The height of the site? Yeah, let me look it up. It's been reduced. I think it's down to 18 feet now, something 16 or 18 feet, depending a little bit on how much we clear the grass. But it came down about 10% from the original height, just as a cost measure. Yeah.
Okay, well,
So
thank
we
you very
can-
much.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
for-
do you want to look through the presentation real quick?
Oh, okay, I thought you said it wasn't working.
No, we just got it up. So at least we thought we did.
So what happens is that where it gets close to the ground, there are pins in that structure, and they're slotted into connection points in some post concrete with spread footings.
So this is the view when you're pretty much on the other side on Dutton Street. The former textile museum is to your back, and you're looking over a little bit closer. And you can see over here is the sculpture. These are the canals. These are already animations of the new buildings that hopefully soon will rise to the skies. This is a close-up of the structure. And so when you can see that this is to scale, like with the people in the picture, you can see it's about 16, 18 feet. People can sit in the bottom. Kids can, in a way, play in it without it being a play structure, but being stainless steel. We hope it's sturdy enough to sustain that. This is a bit about the history that was designed for the Hamilton Canal District, and you can see on the bottom where the structure lays in that flow from the canal and mimics the flow of the water that comes out of the turbines and stuff. The initial schedule started in the beginning, the late 2011, and then all the design was done. Our current schedule after we picked up the project again last March, is that we hope in January to finalize all the meetings with all the commissions, all the licenses that we need, Board of Parks, final agreements. Between February and April, the sculpture itself will be fabricated with the hope that in April, May, the site work can begin, May, June installation, and that by summer we can dedicate the piece, which would be great. You already know this, but the artist is Nancy Savage. It's a project from the cultural organization of Lowell. The city is helping a lot to move it along with all our parts that we need to do. But I think the total budget is $194,000. And all this money has been secured, so we are ready. It's ready to go. And that's it, really.
I think if I saw on your timeline, it looks like you were planning to finish your outreach with the various commissions and boards in January. As Commissioner Varner pointed out, this is within a resource area, so you would need to submit a request for determination of applicability. I would think you could come back, do that form, after you do that, do a very similar presentation. My sense is, just looking at the scale and scope, we would probably issue a -3 determination saying it's within the resource area, but not likely to adversely impact the resource. But I just want you folks to be aware of that this is an informal presentation, but you would need to come before us again with, on our next agenda, or whenever you're ready.
That's on the 25th, right?
24th, I think.
Yeah, I was close.
Yeah. All right, just want to make sure, but
Yeah.
no, it looks like a great project.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you for that presentation, and we look forward to progress on the project. Our next item on the agenda was a notice of intent that is being continued once more. It's the Concord River Greenway project, and it's been on our agenda for several meetings now. It will be continued again by the request of the proponent. We will move on then to new business. And first, under new business, is a request for a certificate of compliance by the University of Massachusetts Lowell, Thomas Dreyer. The project location is 1499 Middlesex Street. And an order of conditions was issued for this on December 28, 2016, for improvement of the property for use as an open storage area on land subject to flooding. The project included improvements of stormwater management. Some people may remember this as a rental tool building with a parking storage area in the back. And the university did purchase this for their own use, I believe. Is there someone here? Good evening.
Thank you, and good evening. It's a pleasure to be back here before you folks. I'm Adam Bakey. I'm the Director of Campus Planning for the university, and don't have a terribly elaborate presentation for you this evening, other than to say that we have largely completed the project consistent with the plans that were originally filed, and you'll see that we provided certification from both our engineer as well as the surveyor went out and confirmed all that for you. There are two differences from what was originally approved. One is that the exact shape and proportions of one of the retention structures was altered slightly, but the engineers did make sure that the capacity remained essentially the same at all depths. The other is that the second stormwater reception area was actually increased in terms of its capacity. We ended up making it a little bit deeper because of some of the rain events that occurred during construction. It became clear that there's actually, in significant rain events, quite a lot of flooding back there. So if we had the opportunity to allow greater capacity in one of the stormwater areas, and so we did. Otherwise, it's largely what was approved. You'll notice on the as-built plan that the mature trees that the Conservation Commission was concerned about during the initial hearing have indeed been preserved, and they're shown on the plan as well. So happy to ask any or answer any questions you may have, but don't want to belabor the meeting if not necessary.
Okay. I think the neighbors were concerned initially when we had the first hearing on this, but after the flooding of a few years ago in that area, I think this can only be an improvement for not only your property, but the neighboring properties as well. I think it's amazing that you could do as much with such a small parcel as you have done, and 2 detention basins larger than they were supposed to be is certainly something to appreciate. I don't have any further questions. We have the statement from the engineer. We have a plan here of what was actually constructed out there. And time will tell, I guess, if we have another flooding incident. The city has also issued a summary of what's gone on.
Yep. Is it on January 9th? No issue.
Yeah. Okay, any further questions from the board?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then we'll entertain a motion.
I'll offer a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for this project.
Seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming in.
Much appreciated.
Good luck. Lost my, oh, here it is. Okay, our next item on the agenda is a notice of intent by the City of Lowell. The project location is Thorndike Street in the vicinity of the Lord Overpass. Notice of intent has been filed on behalf of the city. The proposed design will fill in the Lord Overpass and eliminate the bridges over Thorndike Street to create an at-grade corridor. The work will result in impacts to bank, land under water bodies and waterways, and bordering land subject to flooding, all of which are associated with the Pawtucket Canal. And I think we might have added the Western Canal as well. A little piece of that might be affected. Welcome.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
My name is Nicholas Bossinetto. I'm the city engineer for the city of Lowell. I used to be the traffic engineer, so you might have seen me before. So yeah, this is a very, it's a very big project for the city of Lowell. This is a municipal project. It's probably one of the biggest municipal highway projects undertaken in the state. It's about a $16 million project that we're in the currently designing. We're about 25% design plans. This is our engineering team over here, the VHB. We have Josh, Dan, and Gene, and they're the experts in environmental, stormwater, and design, so they'll be able to answer your specific questions. Just as an introduction, like you mentioned, we're filling in the Lord Overpass to create at-grade intersections. The whole reason the project is to Jackson Street will come out and Fletcher Street to form an intersection right there over the canal where the bridge is right now. And that's so that the Judicial Center that you see rising up and the Hamilton Canal Innovation District, that's to provide access into that whole area there. That's why that intersection is being created. As part of that, then we have to sort of get rid of the Lord Overpass, and we're filling it in. We're adding exclusive bus lanes. We're adding separated bicycle facilities, which have a nice green buffer. We're planting a lot of trees. There's a lot of greenery, a lot of vegetation that we're adding in there. The difference between the existing and proposed is, I think, a third of an acre of increased impervious area, and so they can speak a little bit further about those impacts and how we're mitigating them. But like I said, this is a City of Lowell project. It's It's funded, and it would probably start at towards the end of the summer of this year, 2.5 years construction time, and we can talk a little bit more about the impacts to the canal and the stormwater management.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Gene Crouch. I'm a senior environmental scientist for VHB and on this project. Do we have slides?
I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Oh dear.
Well, maybe while we're waiting, maybe get a little bit more detail about the project, maybe not so much related to the Wetlands Protection Act, but just an overall, because it is a big project, and I think members may be interested in knowing. Reading the narrative of it, it seemed like there was quite a bit to done with respect to improving pedestrian access. I'd be curious, current traffic flow patterns versus the new ones, how much would reduce congestion? I mean, I think some of those things were noted in the report.
Yeah, if you, actually, if you have a copy of the notice of intent, I would direct you to Figure 2, because that has the project overlaid onto an aerial of the downtown area. We've sort of outlined the footprint, yep, that's it. Outlined the footprint of the project area in red. So you can see it encompasses that area of roadway grade separation and extends up into the Pawtucket Canal and a little bit north of the canal. Most of the reason that we're in front of you is because of the work at the canal. We are, as part of this project, reconfiguring Fletcher Street and the new Jackson Street extension into an intersection, a crossing, like a offset, not offset, but a opposite intersection at Thorndike Street, at the new alignment of Thorndike Street. Unfortunately, that intersection falls right on the bridge. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. Can I make this bigger? Because I can't even see the words.
Did I buy us enough time?
Which one, is it the presentation folder?
Yes, yes. That's, yeah, why don't, yeah. Could Dan sort of operate it, and then, because he can probably see it better than I. Can you make it like full size, so it's a little bigger? Or full screen? might make it easier. So the area in red is the footprint of the project, as you can see. And as I was mentioning, the project area extends into the canal area because of the intersection that's proposed between Fletcher Street and Jackson Street Extension. Jackson Street Extension is a road being built around the new courthouse along the canal, and it'll come up to Thorndike Street and then tie into Thorndike Street. And now we're going to tie it into Fletcher to put a more traditional offset intersection. Why don't you go to the next one? This is this figure is not in the notice, but this is a nice overview of the project in total, with landscaping and kind of showing the lane configurations and so forth. The project starts down near the bus depot on the south side, extends up just past, if you can move the mouse around where the canal is. So that's the canal in that area, and the bridge, the existing bridge. So the entire depressed Thorndike Street will be elevated to bring it up to grade with the streets that are now bridges over it. And then there'll be at-grade intersections for each of these intersections with signals and so forth. The red line through the middle was, Nicholas mentioned, is a dedicated bus route. So there'll be 2 bus lines, bus lanes going in each direction, where buses are able to be basically out of the mainstream of traffic flow. I mean, they'll still have to stop at the intersections and get through the intersections like cars, but at least they won't get stuck behind the queuing cars during high traffic times. So the idea is to sort of get the buses through the intersection a little bit more quicker, make it easier for commuters that are using or riders of the bus through the area.
Is there an idea of maybe extending that further down in the future?
I don't know the answer to that. That would be a question for...
No, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah.
And I assume, just looking at this rendering, pedestrian traffic across the street is probably going to be a heck of a lot better than it's been in the past, or currently is, I should say.
It's very definitely better than it is now, because there are no crosswalks
Right.
for the most part across there, and people still go across it. I've seen it many times.
Done it myself.
I did it myself when I was out there. So the white, you can see the white lines, which are crosswalks, and they'll be signaled and so forth, so that it'll actually be safe to get across there instead of taking your life into your hands. It'll help connect the communities and neighborhoods on either side a lot more cohesively than currently exists with this sort of depressed roadway through the middle of it.
Kind of a common trend. The city of Worcester and Boston have done that in a couple
Right.
of projects as well.
Exactly. The bike lanes are along the outer edges. Yeah, if you could zoom in, Dan. Does it scroll in? So there'll be separated bike lanes for the most part with a slight separation. There's this figure also shows the landscaping. One thing that we were able to do, before we get into the details, since we're there, if we can slide over a little further, right there at the bottom is a detention basin. Right now, there's no stormwater facilities out there. We're able to squeeze a detention basin in here to provide some stormwater management, in addition to upgrading all the catch basins and so forth through there. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I just wanted to, since we were there, I wanted to go to it. Why don't you slide up to the canal now? Oh, maybe you can zoom out a little.
Scale it.
Okay. So currently, Fletcher curves into Thorndike on the north side of, or I guess west side of Pawtucket Canal. We're going to reconfigure that street a little bit so that the angle and the curvature of that road is a little less, so it comes into Thorndike Street a little sooner. And then across the street, across Thorndike, is where Jackson will come in, and it'll tie in so that now Jackson and Thorndike are opposite each other, so they'll be controlled by a single signal, so you won't have extra phasing having offsets intersections. The problem is, as you can see, that intersection is basically happening right on the bridge. And there's only so much you can fit. That's a wide bridge, but there's only so much we can put in there. So we are having to widen out that bridge a little bit. All the widening will be on the upstream side, which is the west side. We will be having constructing new abutments, extending the existing piers, and then extending the bridge a little bit as needed to accept the pedestrian facilities, the bikes path, and then the new lane configurations as well. Why don't we go to the next figure, which is you can zoom that down a little. This is a sort of a simplified view of the bridge. The green area you see, or bluish green, is the canal, the existing canal. What we've colored is the actual work that's going to occur within the canal from either the bridge extension, or there's also going to be a small section of new retaining wall that doesn't currently exist. So let's go to the retaining wall first and go through that. This is a short section between the existing abutment of the bridge and the abutment of the old railroad bridge that part of which was turned into the bike path across the canal. And we will be continuing, basically constructing a new retaining wall between those two abutments so that it can support both the extension of Jackson Street, which is right there, and then also the sidewalk along the canal. That will include a footing and a wall extending up to grade, and then backfilling behind that. And it will involve work on bank, about 56 feet of bank, and a little work in the land underwater in the canal itself. The way it would be constructed, and this will hold true for the other areas as well, they will sheet the area with steel sheeting to isolate it, be able to pump it out. That way they can dig it down and do their work in the dry, so they're not dealing with a lot of water in the work site. And then when they're done, they'll pull the sheeting out, and all that'll be left is the wall extending up. There are pictures of this. I'll get to that at the end just to show what this area looks like. I included some pictures in the notice as well. And then if we go down to the bridge, yeah, why don't you zoom out a little if you can. So the brown area represents the new deck of the bridge, or the increased deck of the bridge. So we should have probably colored the existing bridge a little bit differently, but anywhere from that straight line north is existing, or to the top of the view is the existing bridge. The blue area represents the impacts to land on the water from either the abutment or a pier that will be constructed. So you can see the long blue line on the left side is the new abutment that will be extended along the existing wall. It turns out that's actually an old abutment, because at one time Thorndike Street went straight across the canal and straight into Fletcher Street. And years ago, a number of years ago, it actually got curved, and Fletcher Street got curved to sort of direct cars more seamlessly towards downtown, where before they would come in and have to take a 90-degree corner to go towards downtown. This made traffic flow a little bit smoother into town. So we're actually, that abutment on that side is going to reclaim or use the same area that is currently in an abutment. The two short segments of blue in the river, those are extensions of existing piers that are holding up the existing bridge. So they'll be extended out and then beams put across the top to support the new roadway sections. And then there's a short section for a little shorter section of new abutment on the right-hand side. The impacts for that, we did include a table in the notice. Most of them we've interpreted as being temporary. In terms of impact to the banks on either side of this canal, it's already either concrete or granite block vertical surface, and it's going to continue to be that when we're done. So that we interpreted that as a temporary impact because it's going to be restored back to the way it was. If you're looking for the table, it's on page 6 of the notice, of the narrative. Altogether, that's about 84 linear feet on either side for these abutments. The permanent impact we've identified is for that retaining wall on the other side of the bridge, and that's about 56 feet long. For land underwater, we've got about 186 square feet of temporary impact where the work area, around the work area that would be sheeted off and construction undertaken. We have about 1,000 square feet of permanent impact. And we can look at some pictures also. There's actually, the footings for these piers actually extend up above the bottom of the surface. What they did is they sheeted around it, they filled it with concrete, and then they used that as a base or a footing to build the piers. And we're assuming that their construction would be doing the same thing. So there is that all that area was counted as a permanent impact within land underwater. There is also a floodplain in the canal. Unfortunately, it's a Zone A floodplain, which means it does not have a base flood elevation. We don't know what it is. We assume it would stay within the canal walls, but according to the FEMA mapping, it goes outside of the flood walls, or the canal walls. What we did was we tried to find that elevation, but there really is no way to do it other than conducting a new study, which is a very expensive effort. So what we did was we took the graphic representation of what that A zone was, presented it onto the project, and then looked at what we were doing within that zone, whether we were matching grade. We would say no impact to floodplain storage. If we're filling it, then we would have a loss of floodplain storage. We're definitely filling behind that retaining wall, so that's where most of, or a lot of that impact is. We're doing some grading on the left side here where Fletcher Street is coming in, and that would be in floodplain. That also would have some loss of flood storage. It represents about 163 cubic yards of volume and 19,800, almost 900 square feet. The square footage I'm less concerned about because it's all pretty disturbed in this area anyway. There's not a lot of habitat value associated with this area, but the volume is within the floodplain. I don't know if it's a realistic number because I really don't think it comes out of the canal footprint, and I figured you all have been here a lot longer than I have and would know whether or not the canal floods.
I'll defer to Commissioner Varnick. She's been here a lot longer than I have, but from what I recall from a number of projects that have done, within proximity to the canal, I think the top of the canal structure is kind of considered the base, the flooding elevation. So in other words, you'd have to have overtopping of that to actually create an effect.
Okay, well, in that case, then, our impacts would be significantly less. In that case, the only place we would have some impact would be for that retaining wall, where we do have to extend it out. And since we didn't calculate them separately, we sort of just lumped them together, unfortunately. So I can't tell you what the retaining wall alone is. I think it was a fairly small number, though. It was a much smaller number than over on the Fletcher Street side. But if we back out now, maybe go to the next slide. So what I included here in the notice were some photographs of the area. This is the bridge. This is actually the upstream side. So those two piers that you see sticking out, those are the ones that are going to be extended in this direction. Well, when we go to the next, scroll down to the next picture, because it shows the sort of a more close-up of the abutment. This is the abutment on the Fletcher Street side. This is the old abutment for the old Thorndike Street Bridge when it actually went straight across. So our new abutment will take up some of this. It will be totally replaced. They will be taking this down and then building a solid, known structure all the way up. They'll actually take this down to bedrock. It's not very deep in this area. And then build it back up and face it with granite so that it looks consistent with the historic canals. So this will end up looking pretty similar to the way it looks now, except that there's going to be some bridge over it. Okay, next. This is the other side of the canal. This is looking towards the south, towards Thorndike. This is where the short section of abutment will be added. There are a couple penetrations of the wall there, some pipe openings. We don't know where they came from, and I believe the city's not really aware of where they come from either. So they don't seem to be functioning, but I believe it's the old sewer overflow that has since been disconnected. Yeah. Right. So it's not functioning, and we'll be eliminating it anyway in the process of this project. So continue. This is looking at the upstream side. So there's no extension of the bridge on this side, but to the right is the area where that new retaining wall would go. It would go from that abutment over, and I think there's a closer up picture that I took. I took this quite a while ago, actually. But so it'll actually connect between that railroad bridge and the side of the existing bridge over here. So that's essentially where the retaining wall would go. There's actually an old piece of sheeting that was sticking up there that was left over from when the bridge was built more recently. There's also some retaining wall over on the other side that still remains. There's some unmortared, almost like rubble stone, not quite fancy granite block stone behind the railroad bridge there. But that's, at this point, the water level's a little lower here. So that's where that's the bank that's going to be permanently impacted, which I've identified. And then behind that is the new courthouse site. This is quite a while ago, so they haven't even started construction yet. And then this is a photograph, this is an image of the floodplain mapping with the project overlaid. The blue area is what FEMA identifies as the limits of floodplain, but as I said, it's an A zone, and A zones don't have a base flood elevation associated with them. We did a project a couple of years ago, the bridge on Lower Pawtucket. Somebody somewhere along the way filed a LOMAR for their project that happened to be also on the Lower Pawtucket Canal, and in the process of doing that, established a flood elevation for it, which FEMA had on their website. So when we did that project, we knew what the flood elevation was. In this case, we looked, there are no LOMARs that have been filed on the canal system anywhere else in the city, so unfortunately we couldn't use that as a means to find the elevation. The Pawtucket Canal, if you know, comes directly off of the Merrimack River. There is a guard lock system that's about 4,500 feet upstream of us, where we are. I couldn't tell how much that affected the flood elevation or the elevation of the water in the canal. But this is one of the higher level canals. And then the power generation is water from these canals are drawn off to drop through the lower canals through turbines to generate power. Like the lower Pawtucket Canal is lower, and water goes from drawing a blank, not Hanover, what's it? Hamilton Canal, thank you. From the Hamilton Canal through to the lower Pawtucket Canal, and that's how they generate the power. I think that's about it, isn't it? Yeah, that's the last of our slides. If you have any questions, oh, one thing I forgot. We did notify a lot of people, and that's our, the record of our notification to the abutters. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
I was surprised to realize that there was part of that canal that didn't already have a wall. So
It's about the last section
Yeah.
that we could find. Yeah, if you go upstream of the guard locks, that's all natural up in there, it seems. But once you get past that, and then basically all the way down to the Concord, and where it drops back into the Merrimack, it seems to be all pretty much protected.
Perhaps there's a section that fell down long ago, or maybe a building or something.
There's boulders there that have been placed late, more recently. There's slabs of rock and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's been placed there that doesn't look natural, but it's hard to say that there was a wall there ever before. But you're right, it's surprising that that's the only
Well, it'll
section.
certainly improve the erosion if there
Right.
is some happening right there.
There is actually, if you go back to that photograph of the close-up of it, yeah, no, the next one down. Yeah, that one. On the right-hand side, sort of behind that you can sort of see like a gully forming coming straight down. So there is erosion that's coming down there, and part of that might be from people going up and down that to get down to the water, and basically causing it to be destabilized so that when it does rain, you get that eroding. It is a very steep surface. I'm actually surprised it's got as much growing on as it does. It's not. You can't really, other than that little gully, you can't really get from above to below without basically sliding down it.
And you've been working with the National Park, I presume, as far as, you mentioned putting granite in front of the,
Right. Yep.
front of the new wall, yeah. So basically, I guess what you're saying is that when you're done, there's going to be very little difference from what you see there
Right.
now.
Right,
Except
right.
for perhaps some fill behind a new retaining wall. So there'll still be ability to get in under that bridge to clean the canal or whatever needs to be done under there.
Coordinate with the National Park Service, because they do the boat tours through there, and we discussed that they'll have just as much room today as they do today in the future. We're basically mimicking the same bridge configuration that's out there today, just extending it a little further.
Not affecting water levels or anything else.
No, we actually have coordinated with ENL as well, because obviously they have control of the canals and are concerned they don't want to have any loss of capacity for power generation.
Yeah.
And the way the extensions of the piers are, they're in line with the existing piers, so they'll not have any restriction of flow. That was their big concern. So they're pretty much okay with what we're proposing.
Yeah. How do you extend a pier like that, or do they couple together somehow, or?
What they'll do is, similar to the way we would be constructing along the abutments, they will sheet that off
Oh, okay.
and then dewater it and dig down. There's about 2 feet of overburden on top of the ledge. They'll dig that out, and then they'll fill that up again with concrete. We've got, actually, if you can back up to one of the other photo files, we've got some photos, sort of close-up files of the piers. Now, keep going. I think it's it's probably the first one. If you can zoom in on that,
Mm-hmm.
you can sort of see that chunk on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's that footing that I was talking about. And you can see the shape it has. What they did is they sheeted that, dug it out, and then just filled it back up with concrete, and then pulled the sheeting out, and it left that pattern as if it were a mold. And so we would be doing the same thing, creating that footing, and then building the smooth concrete-looking pier from there up.
So you'd be working basically in a dry area, not...
Yep. Yep.
So if anything should fall in, you can easily see it and
Yep.
remove it.
Well, there'll probably be, I mean, the sheeting will come up above water surface and up a bit, so that, and they're going to be working within that entirely. I mean, other than maybe a boat to go back and forth if they need that, they would not really be doing anything outside of the sheeted area. Now, in terms of connecting it, they'll probably have to drill holes and put in rods and to pin the two structures together so they, don't sort of work separately.
In particular order, you did mention a new detention basin.
Yep.
Could
Oh.
you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
please?
We've identified the project as a redevelopment for the most part. There is about a third of an acre of new impervious area from the project. As you're probably aware, this is a pretty congested area and pretty tight area in terms of being able to fit a feature like this into it. But we do have a small area over here that we have access to. We're proposing this basin here. It's going to actually receive water from the side road that's right there, and it's going to receive about 2/3 of an acre for treatment purposes. So it's actually improving the condition of what we're increasing by 1/3 of an acre. We're treating 2/3 of an acre. Plus, all the new catch basins throughout the area are going to be deep sump hooded catch basins. So that's probably better than what's out there now. The outlet from this basin will go back out into the street, into the existing drainage, basically trunk line, and that goes out and discharges through the abutment wall under the bridge today, and it will continue to do that. So we won't have any new outfall location or anything. It's in a location that it actually comes out of the wall and then spills down onto that concrete footing, so it's all stable, it's not eroding anything. And we'll just continue to use that same outlet pipe and have a little better treatment. Well, we did do analysis, drainage analysis. The rates of runoff are not any more or are less than existing. And like I say, we can't infiltrate. There's just no place out here to effectively infiltrate. But we are treating basically.
Retention pond.
This is designed as a bioretention basin. We'll be able to get some recharge.
There'll be some recharge, but it also has under drains, so it'll drain down in between the storms. So that it's not going to be lined or anything. So yeah, there will be some opportunity for it to infiltrate, but it's not going to hold water for long periods of time. It will drain down the way it's supposed to.
But it'll remove solids along the way.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Now, I was going through your stormwater report, and I noticed that, because thinking about what you said at the beginning about 1/3 of an increase in impervious surface, but reading through that, it seems like you're compensating for that
Right.
with the bioretention pond. I'm curious, I mean, as you're probably aware, the city of Lowell's doing a lot of work to address its CSOs throughout the city, and I'm just curious, is the reduction that's coming from this project, is that being accounted for in the overall city's plan to reduce its discharges, CSO discharges? Anyone know?
Yeah, we're not,
Or is it de minimis, or is it?
yeah, we can count, we're working closely with the wastewater utility on this project, because there's a lot of utilities. So, yeah, we'll tell them that, if they want to use that as a credit to their overall program, I'm sure they're,
I don't think there is any existing CSOs throughout this area.
right.
It is all separated in this stretch where we're doing the
but for the MS4 permit that they operate under.
That was gonna be
maybe
my
we
next
can-
point, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can use this as a credit towards it.
Yeah, I would think someone in the city's probably accounting for that.
Yeah, we're working, all departments are working together on this.
Okay. And when I heard at the beginning, is it 16 million or 60 million dollars, this project?
The project right now is $16 million project, and it's funded mostly through state grants and state funds. We're not gonna, we're trying to keep the project under, on budget. We're doing everything we possibly can to, try to keep it within budget.
All right. Other than that, I think it's a good project overall. I mean, I think it improves the connectivity of the city, access from point A to point B, so to speak, reduces solids in stormwater runoff, with a little bit of bioretention. And so I think it's a good project. Nothing further. Thank you.
Caitlin?
Nothing.
Can I ask a question? The rubble areas.
Just one moment, please. Go ahead.
Is your mic on? Push your button.
Plant material around the catch basin. Has that been selected? Do you know what it is?
Around the basin.
Yeah.
Around the basin?
This has not yet.
No, this is just a rendering.
This is just a rendering, but we would, try to, as shown here, try to hide the system a little bit, but it will be planted with, native kind of species that would, do the treatment uptake.
Take a lot of water.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you.
I just would like to add that we are working with Ms. Diane Trad, who's the DPD director and a landscape architect, and she has been very crucial. And as you see here, there's a lot of trees everywhere. You can put a tree, there's a tree. So she is involved in this, and we are, she knows all the different species, and so we have included her in the process. So.
I think it'd be looking totally different from what you've got there now with just half of those trees. Great rendering there of what it could look like. If there's no questions at the moment from the board, I can open it up to the public. If there's anyone who would like to make a comment, either for or against. Yes, sir. If you approach the mic and give your name, please.
Mark Hunter, I live in the ATHM, overseeing this site. Tickled that this went through. I thought it was a pipe dream when we first heard of it, and it is exciting. The rubble zone that was presented is currently a drug trafficking area. Will the abutment correct that? So there'll be no real access down. Wonderful. The second question is, are these slides available?
I would think so.
I'd like to present to the other members of the ATHM that overlooks it.
The one on the website.
So the city, we have all these drawings, we have presentations, we have actually an animation that shows the project. If you give me your email, I can send you any materials, plus the city's available to come to your neighborhood associations. We're more than happy to come to your neighborhood associations and give the presentation and answer any questions you might have. So I'm more than happy to.
Yeah,
The lady here wanted to know the time frame. This project, we're under design towards the end of summer. This project will be going out to bid and start construction, and then it's going to be about a 2.5 year process of completing it.
Probably everyone's wondering where the traffic is going while the project's going on.
How much extra time should I like to make to the train station in the morning?
So for the traffic, what we're going to do is we're going to have a traffic control plan, of course, on how to build it. The plan is to close Thorndike Street underneath the bridges and divert all traffic up and down the ramps. So we're going to make those 2 lanes so that all the traffic's going, add temporary traffic signals, and then fill up the hole with the fill until they get up to the bridges. Once we get up to the bridge, remove the bridges, create the intersections, then put all the traffic on there, and then finish the sides. So it's about 4 different, different phases that we're gonna do it on.
That'll keep everybody busy on their toes. Anyone else from the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment on this project? Hearing none, no more questions from the board. We can entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Seconded by
I'll second it.
Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And,
You know, for a motion.
yeah, ready for a motion.
All right, I'll offer a motion to approve this project and issue a standard City of Lowell order of conditions for the work.
Seconded?
Motion made and seconded to issue a standard order of conditions for this project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, and I guess that finishes this round.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
No more technical glitches. Murphy's Law.
Okay, if we can continue with our agenda here. We have, thank you very much for coming in. We have an enforcement order here for National Grid. There was a violation in Kearney Square at the Eastern Canal, pumping contents of a manhole into the Eastern Canal. I'm sure this was totally inadvertent.
Good evening. My
Could
name's...
you
Pardon?
introduce yourself, please? Thank you.
My name's Beverly Oxford Paiva. I'm the environmental engineer for National Grid for the Merrimack Valley. With the holiday, National Grid became aware of the enforcement order last week. And since that time, we have been working to figure out when the discharge was. We've determined that it was probably around December 16th. The underground crew was working on a manhole that was in Kearney Square, very close to the bridge. The conditions were more cold. The concern was if discharging the water to the roadway might create an icy roadway. Unfortunately, for the crew, they had some misguidance, and they instead of calling, they unfortunately put the hose on the side of the bridge, and it was discharged into the canal. And what we believe is Mike Stewart from the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility saw the event, took pictures of the event, also provided that to us. So in the past week, what we've been doing is working internally, making sure the crews, it's being reinforced to them that this is not acceptable behavior. We do have internal procedures on the proper way to address any manholes and vaults with water in them. I'm also in conversations with Mike. We are working toward a general permit for discharging. His preference is that we direct the flow to the sewer, so it could go through the treatment center system. Right now, we have a meeting scheduled with him next Wednesday, so we can work out the general requirements in the permit. Ultimately, once we have everything in writing and we have a permit from them, we'd be more than happy to, provide the commission with a copy of the permit. It was an unfortunate event. It shouldn't have happened, and that is not our normal protocol for working in the manholes and working in the city. And we've taken steps immediately to correct those situations. There's internal investigations that we conduct, and a lot of training and a lot of reminding people. So that is where we are with this situation at this time.
Well, everyone was doing the best they could at the time, I'm sure.
Right,
So,
and it's only going to get a tad more challenging with the incoming weather.
Right.
Although, for the weekend, plus with the snowbanks too. I know some of the comments I heard internally were sometimes it's hard to find even where the catch basins are, but they've all now been reminded, and
Yeah.
there will be more due diligence and awareness on
Well,
their
a
part.
permit sounds like a perfect solution, too.
No, I think the permit will be good. I mean, we do have certain communities in the past we've had permits with, and it makes life a little bit easier. They're more aware of what we do. We might have some details of notifying Mike and company when we have to do work out there. I'm not sure how we're going to address emergency work yet, but, you know, and I know in talking to my underground supervisors, we are in the city, if not weekly, we can be daily. It just depends on what is happening electrically in the system that needs repair. So we want to work together with the city.
Right. Well, you're not talking about a huge amount of water at any one time anyway, are you?
No, we aren't. It can vary from manhole to manhole. I think this might have been a little extra water because we're closer to the canal. In other events, we don't have, you know, much water to discharge. We also review the manhole that they're going to work in. If we run into a situation where it has mud, any oil sheens, we have Clean Harbors come in and clean the manholes first. And for the work in Kearney Square, they were clean several days before this event. So we have strict rules internally about what we discharge in the public way.
No, it would seem that the city would have some kind of a plan that shows where the drains are that could be provided to the crews, couldn't it?
Possibly.
With the snow, maybe you don't see.
Well,
what you're
true,
looking
but I think after this event, they're going to be more mindful. And if there is any question, we will be calling Clean Harbors to remove material. If we can't find a good way to handle it, either through the system, we'll call Clean Harbors. It's just easier to have them come in, take the material away, and instead of, you know, having another misstep.
Okay, so has this enforcement order it hasn't been ratified by, do we want to ratify it and then perhaps close it out? I don't know.
Ratify and rescind?
Right.
Yeah, just before we do that, just.
Sure.
What is your typical protocol? If it's a small volume, you'd have like a Clean Harbors bring a vac truck and vac out the contents, and if it's larger, you'd work with the city and see if they require any sort of holding in a frac tank and treatment before discharge to the storm?
If we were in that high volumes,
Yeah.
yes. But a typical manhole, we'll have Clean Harbors do.
Okay.
I think it's just, if, say we do work and then overnight it fills up again, that might need some, you know,
Understand.
special needs versus always taking the water away.
I think some sort of permanent agreement with the city would be great, you know, for a longer-term solution. All right, with that, I'll offer a motion.
Maybe I should have asked the other members if they wanted to say anything first.
I think that the steps that you've taken in looking to get a general permit are good and have addressed, you know, the issues that came up in the enforcement order.
Did I understand you to say that you have a protocol, training protocol for the employees?
Yes, we do. We have internal guidance documents of how you, you know, address, you know, materials in a manhole or a vault.
Thank you.
And if necessary, those can be provided as well to the commission.
Okay, now, Bill.
All right, with that, I'll offer a motion to ratify this enforcement order.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, further, I will offer a motion to rescind the order based on the corrective actions that National Grid has taken on this enforcement order.
Okay, and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, thank you for
Well,
coming
thank
in
you.
and explaining what happened.
Hopefully, would you like a copy of our internal procedures or anything? Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
checking.
we're all-
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have a request for a certificate of compliance. Fabio Lacerda. The project location is 76 Magnolia Street. This site started out with, I believe, an enforcement order and then received an order of conditions in 2016. It's adjacent to the Clay Pit Brook, and their project is now finished. Would you explain,
Sure.
introduce yourself, please?
Yep, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Brian Melissi with Whitman and Bingham Associates. We were the project engineer on the project. We got brought in after the enforcement order. Mr. Lacerda, who was the owner of property back then, started to do some work exterior to the building without filing. The enforcement order obviously was put on the property. We came in, filed a notice of intent. He has since completed the project. The project itself was fairly minor in nature. It was a deck onto the back of the house and a walkway leading from the deck to the front existing, there's a small paved parking area. However, because he was so close to Clay Pit Brook, he was also within the floodplain. And I know a couple of the commissioners here probably weren't here when we were in front of you, but the deck itself was put on sonotube piers, and so the actual disturbance to the floodplain was very minor. However, what we did to compensate was just had them grade the walkway just a little bit to compensate for any filling. We went out, Whitman and Bingham went out, did an as-built plan, located the deck, located the walkway, took a look around, and saw that the project had been done, in accordance with the order. There really weren't any derivations from the project, and Mr. Lacerda now is looking to get the certificate of compliance and close it out.
Okay, I think the whole issue started out that nobody really knew what was going on out there, and, he had plans in his head that he wanted to maybe redo a little more than he actually ended up doing.
Exactly. And I think if you remember, Mr. Lacerda, there was a little bit of a language barrier. He really didn't understand what it was the commission was asking him to do. However, we came in, and I do think since we got the order, he's kind of followed it to a T, so.
Well, one issue that presents itself and has done in the past quite a bit is when these come in the middle of winter with the snow cover out there, and it is difficult to see if the site is stabilized.
I probably should have taken some photos. We get out there, it was after the first little bit of snow we got, but we were out there before the big one. I don't know if Christine got a chance to get out there before all the snow came. I apologize, I probably should have taken some photos. However, it was stabilized.
I
Well,
don't.
I think, certainly if the site starts to erode, that we know where it is, and we'll take some corrective action on that. So that was where I ended up as far as worrying about the stabilization. But I don't think the actual bank of the brook was disturbed, and in fact, it appears to be off of the property line according to
Correct, it was not.
this
He didn't go
plan.
anywhere near the brook, really. Yep.
Right. So, I'm comfortable with it at this point. Did you have something, Bill?
No, I was just going to mention what you mentioned. I mean, I think, yeah, it would have been ideal to see it before a heavy snow covering, but I think given where the work took place and the proximity to the bank, I'm not concerned about it either. Mm-hmm. And I do note that Christine, someone from the staff went out on yesterday and did a walkover.
And there is an adjacent property that we have still an open enforcement on, so we have our eyes over there a lot, and there's a few of us that can attest that it is
Perfect.
stabilized.
Okay. With that, I'll offer a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for the completion of this project.
Second.
Seconded?
Okay, do we have some discussion? We didn't all get to weigh in on this.
No, fine.
No, any more comments? Okay, motion made and seconded. I would note that we did rescind the enforcement order when the notice of intent came in at that time, so that's no longer an issue. So we have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance on this project, which means it's closing it out. And it's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's, finishes that for the
Thank you.
moment.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming in. Yeah. Okay, we do have some minutes that are on our agenda, but I did speak with the staff here, and I would prefer to do the minutes at the next meeting.
Agreed.
Since a couple of the members that are part of the meetings here are not in attendance tonight.
I would second that.
Okay, so we'll put the minutes off until the next meeting.
You're gonna have more
2
for us,
weeks from
aren't you?
today.
That's okay.
Okay, that is the end of what I have on my agenda. Is there anything else, Jared and Christine?
We received a notice from Mass DEP that we were CC'd on it to Mr. Powers at Triumvirate Environmental. It was a request for a hazardous waste facility Part B renewal application. It's just a reminder letter.
Is this trans gas?
Oh, we also have that notice. This was a different one.
Okay, where is the location? Or
This
is it just
is
a permit?
waste facility number 34B. It doesn't give an address. It's just saying that we're reminding them that they have to renew their license. And they have 30 days to schedule a pre-application with Mass DEP. I've never seen one of these.
What is it again?
It's a request for a hazardous waste facility Part B renewal application.
You know what that probably is a license to store hazardous materials on site. You know, there's shelf life in terms of how long you can store stuff as a product, otherwise it's deemed to be a waste and needs to be disposed of.
Sure.
And so that's probably what that is, you know, if they want to maintain the status of holding hazardous materials on site, they have to apply
Now,
for renewal.
who is this, though? I'm still unclear as to who's requesting this.
So we were copied on it. It's a letter from DEP to Mr. Steve Powers of Triumvirate Environmental, 263 Howard Street, Lowell, Mass. So it's not addressed to us.
Okay, that's where I was wondering where it was.
Sorry. So we were just CC'd on it to be aware, so I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay, so we have no jurisdiction over it particularly. The DEP's handling it.
Yes.
Yeah, aren't they a environmental waste disposal company?
Yeah,
Okay.
like Clean Harbors.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, so I do have this, and you do as well, the trans gas proposal. This did come before us with a order of conditions at some point, and I remember, touring the site and speaking with the people, and but apparently now the DEP is involved and has kind of taken over the jurisdictional side of this. But anyway, I think the project that we reviewed is completed and has been completed for some time. So this is probably just something that we want to put in our files, I would think. Does anyone else have any? Did you get this?
I did have a chance to
Yeah.
read it.
So I guess we'll just file that one, or did you want us to take some kind of action or reply to someone, or?
No, we just get a lot of random notices, and I think you guys should see them because they are addressed to you, and I just open them.
I love those random notices.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is the end of our agenda for this evening, and thank you very much, and good night.
I offer a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, very appropriate, thank you. Seconded. And anyone not in favor?
No, I think we're all in favor. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
No gavel?